Welcome to Spoiler Corner. Okay, so Loki dies and the mother dies. Loki doesn't die. Yeah, he comes in at the end, which...
No wonder you hated the movie. You walked out before it ended.
No, it's like a spoiler for a spoiler. Which, even the ending, it's like he's there, it's like, haha, it was me all along. Well, okay, is Odin dead? Is he not dead? How did he survive? How did he just... Gods!
That's what sequels are for.
That annoyed me too. But, okay, so... But that's why you don't see Loki much in this, and... God, when he was in this movie, it was so much better. Like,
I will say, the movie begins... Like, I like the little haunted house sequence in Britain, but the movie, for me, really begins... The second Asgard is attacked, and then the prison break begins. Like, at that point, I was like, okay, movie, you've got me now. Like, and that's where I started to realize I actually was enjoying this film. It was like right there. I was like, okay, this is funny.
The interaction between him and Loki, break. Yeah. But like
if you kill him, I will kill you. Yes, apparently there's a line for me.
Yeah, wonderful lines from him, beautifully delivered. And the other thing they keep doing is that he keeps... I don't want to say he keeps switching sides because it's all kind of part of his plan, but like he'll act like he's on Thor's side, and then it makes it look like he cut off his hand and he's betraying to the bad guy, but then it turns out that was actually just a trick, but that looks like Loki is killed, but that looks like at the very end he comes back to actually take the throne, and he's dressed up like Odin, and he's like, bye-bye, Thor. It turns out now he's on the throne. I like how many times he keeps going back and forth. That makes sense.
It so makes sense. And like, I'm reading there's some backlash, and I've had some fans talk to me. And it's like, I didn't like the ending. It just like...
I wish it would explain it more. How the fuck
they're just like, I thought it was a redemption story, and then it turns out, no, he's just a douchebag. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. I'm like... if you think was supposed to be a redemption story, you don't know the original Loki from the myth this is based on. I mean, Loki and Thor in the original myth were always friends, but the tragedy was they always were enemies too. Like they were like the odd couple. It's like always an alliance of convenience. They enjoyed each other's company and their wit and, you know, doing things together, but at the same time they hated each other.
And what I like to, you do not... We see a lot of these movies I hate to keep bringing it up, but like Dark Knight Rises, when Catwoman says, well, I'm taking off, I'm a bad guy. Yeah, I wonder what she's going to do at the end.
Yeah,
in this
so
one, you
obvious.
legitimately don't know. You don't know if he's going to be a good guy or a bad guy. Or it's actually,
I was banking on still being a douchebag, but I'm like, all right, they're playing it well. I'm not entirely sure. I read the comics through the Infinity Wars. I'm like, I have an idea, but I'm like, maybe they'll tinker with it. So you know, and I mean, in the original myth, like... Loki's offspring kills Thor. They kill each other. It sounds like... So from the myth it's based on, they're always meant to be, you know, at each other's throats. And then in the comics, it's a similar deal. And then in this, like, there's a great line where, like, Thor, like, is talking to him. He's like, okay, mother's dead, so I'm gonna let you out of prison. But the second we're done here, you go back to prison. But you get a chance to get vengeance. And Loki's like, uh-huh. And he's like... There's some conversation who's like, by the way, like, I only, like, did this, like, for Mother. If, you know, you cross me at any point, you know, basically, like, Mom's not here to keep you alive anymore. All bets are off. And I was like, what is Loki's incentive to play night, to, like, you know, and... At the very end, Loki has some line, he's like, trust my rage. And I always laughed at it. I was like, what a perfect out. Because, like, what the fuck does that mean? It's like, trust my rage. Well, Loki's rage is directed at everybody around him.
So, I mean, so, again, anything with Loki is great. Okay. So the stuff with Loki is awesome. What I found interesting, the stuff with the mother, Renee Russo plays the mother here. And good character, but as soon as you see her and Odin laughing and smiling, okay, well, one of them's dead. You know one of them's gonna get axed.
In this case, it may have been both. We don't know yet.
Yeah, now, but... So, she has a pretty cool badass sequence of fighting off, whatever the big... whatever that Red Bull thing.
The Balrog.
Yeah, the Balrog. And she gets axed off.
The Skyrim character. That's what it looked like to me. I was like, oh, it's somebody with Skyrim.
And again, and you have Thor coming and going, no, you know, and tries to go after him on the spaceship with lasers. Again, Asgard. No, you hold their spears shooting beams of light. Yeah, they're lasers. Come on. And those spaceships,
Bitch,
come
bitch,
on!
bitch.
I was so, it's like I'm looking, okay, anyway.
I love the design on those things.
But they're spaceships! What the
look
fuck are they doing
intimidating.
at Asgard? Okay.
Read a comic book!
Okay, so anyway, so you have this very nice funeral scene. Like, that's actually one of the visually
really
interesting
effective.
scenes. See, I thought it looked nice, I like that they gave some time for that, but I don't... It seems like all the mourning was only when Thor and Loki were together, which again was not much. And even then, you didn't see that much of the you didn't see that much of the connection with Thor and her. You saw a little bit. Like I say, it's not totally botched, but something about any time, like you said they should really dwell on the losses in this movie. And I agree. There's even a scene
that was the one key problem.
even after where he thinks Loki dies, he's like, "No!" and then drops him.
That's when I was like, when he like drops him like that and leaves, I was like, yeah, Loki's coming back. I had no idea how they were gonna do that or in what way, but
Well,
I'm
we
like,
still don't know how.
I was expecting after all the credits are ended, I'm like, yeah, Loki's hand rises up. I'm like, something happens.
Yeah, so I'm glad he's not dead, but could you do, like, everything, all his trickery and stuff, they sort of show how it works, and the powers in these movies are very vague, but
In
it's
some
like,
ways,
okay, but
it
it's like, dude,
reminds
come on,
me
he died.
of certain elements of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, where I'm like, the ideas here are actually really good. There's an interesting story arc here. There's a way a lot of these things are connected. Execution's a little sloppy. I thought the execution in this film was way better than in, a lot of the Star Wars prequels, but
Yeah.
I agree, it's rushed, but I will take an attempt to tell that sort of story over the first film that I don't even know what the hell the story was in the first film now that I'm thinking about it.
What do you think of, because I was sort of torn on this, what do you think of Hopkins' reaction after he sees, his wife dead there? Because, I mean, he does go over, he does cradle her, but I mean, granted, one eye doesn't work, but there's no tear. I mean, there's no, like, shaky. He's just sort of, I don't know if it was, like, purposely really reserved or really lazy.
I got it as really reserved. I got it that he's a god. I mean, remember, this is somebody who's lived thousands of years.
Yeah,
and
so
seen
it's,
all
I kind of took it.
Sometimes the scariest thing is just silence. So, and the way that shot was composed with all of them standing there, I was like, this is a really beautifully shot film.
Yeah, it actually...
and I like Kenneth Branagh, but I was like surprised. It was like, actually, there are a number of scenes I think are shot even better than like the first film.
See, I don't... again, I know what you're talking about with the... make it look like, hey, you can really walk in this world and breathe in this world. Not everything has to look
But there's
massive.
some shots that are like directly out of like old paintings. They're just composed great.
That's what sort of saved me, because originally, when I'm watching, I'm like, oh, come on, it doesn't look nearly as big as the first one, blah, blah, blah. But watching it, scenes like the funeral scene and like the scene you just mentioned, or when something crashes into something, it's like, okay, this feels solid. When the ship crashes and hits all the pillars, it feels really solid. So I was saying, okay, this is a well-shot film. To me, just not
part of the reason the film seems rushed, I found out, is, well, there's like 3 writers for this movie. So you can only imagine, like, just them throwing out all their ideas. There was a love triangle in this movie that they cut out.
Doesn't that make sense? Because
you know who it was.
Yeah, she looks like the only woman in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, it's the woman from Two Broke Girls. I mean, it's the comic relief, obviously.
Yeah, well, we all know.
Yeah, she's the one everyone wants. Even she gets a fucking boyfriend in this. It's like, shut that story down.
And that's that's the way of it. Just shut this down. Shut this off. Shut this story down.
No, I know you're talking about the Xeno Warrior Princess, as they called her in the first one. Yeah, because she gives a look, and it's like, God, don't you wish he got together with her? I mean, they only had a few seconds, but it's like, they should have been together.
No, do I think he should have gotten together with her? Absolutely. 100%. Yes, in those few scenes, I found her way more interesting of a character without hardly any lines than I did Natalie Portman. That being said, knowing how the comic book industry works, knowing how Hollywood works, that would never happen. So, on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, that made this film kind of jumbled, because you're like, well, what happened? Why is she staring? And then it gets dropped. At the same time, I'm just like, thank God. Because if I had to sit through a love triangle where we know he's going to go with Natalie Portman eating the shredded wheat, and we've just wasted all of this time on that, would I have loved to see... this character get her fair due? Yes. Is it a crime she doesn't? Yes. But if it was done with a love triangle, I'm like, just cut it.
I would have said fuck it if she was gonna
just cut it.
Anyway.
So there's a lot of stuff like that going on, and that's why I think it feels rushed. I get a feeling like the studio came in and all these calls were being made, and they're like, okay, cut this, and so you get this sort of jumbled film. But again, sometimes I would rather take something that had hints of brilliance, but that's still a jumbled mess, over something like the first film to me, where it was just like, here's just a fish out of water story. Like, it just...
I got you. Yeah. No, I mean, like, the first one to you probably is, like, the love triangle. It's like, even though it's not a love triangle, it's like, well, here's another cliche I hate. The fish out of water story. So, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it does.
But yeah, Loki, that whole story in the middle to me is like something out of Godfather Part 2. It's like the mother with Michael Corleone and Fredo, like, trying to keep these two, and then the mother dies, and then, like, that conversation is like, you're probably only alive because mom's here. And I'm just like, this is, like, a really cool story arc, and I wish the whole movie was about that.
Yeah, I mean, why do they have to throw all this other stuff in?
Yeah,
you don't need to. Okay, comic book movies.
Yeah.
I know you're a comic book. I know you have like a million stories going on, but you don't need it.
I don't need to see Earth. That's the one thing about Thor that I kind of liked, is the fact that you've got Asgard, you've got this thing, and Thor was never one of my favorite comics. Actually my least favorite of the Avengers, but that's its advantage. It's like, oh, you can go epic with this. You can go.
He's make it so large,
and it's like, no, let's be goofy in England. Oh, he's running with his pants off, and I was like, I don't give a fuck about these people. I don't care. Stop cutting to them.
Just cut them. Don't cut to them. Just cut them. Take out the
bad romance to begin with. So, yeah. That stuff was great. And even the ending, I thought, with the finale in London, I thought I was going to hate that. When I saw that in the trailer, that ship crashing into...
Yeah, how many times have we seen cities destroyed?
Yeah, across the Thames into... I don't know if that's Buckingham Palace or whatever monument that is, and it looks like some sort of palace. I was like, oh my god. It was like, it's going to be Man of Steel over again. It's going to be Thor punching some dude, a whole bunch of buildings falling over.
But they had the Time Warp thing that was nice.
That was handled so well, and it was so much fun, that it made me forget that I hated the comic relief for about 15 minutes. So that was brilliant. The ship crashing itself was cool to look at. I'm like, that's it. That's all you got. I'm like, thank God I'm not seeing the same shit over and over again. The only thing in that ending that bothered me was, I'm just like watching this, and I'm like, okay, so England. The nation that, like, took Germany on in the Battle of Britain, the Royal Air Force, took on the frickin' Luftwaffe. They have only 2 jets to scramble? I'm like...
Oh, how about Asgard, where it's like, all these ships are coming in, and the guy sees he has no way of contacting Odin, even though he can communicate across the galaxy, and it's just him going after his ship.
Yeah,
right, fucking Asgard has no other protection around that place against
if you've got magic if you have magic to power your laser weapons, can you at least invest in a magic cell phone? Like, oh shit, boop, 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 boop. Yeah.
How about your own little magic lasers that science and technology are one? Wait, you're not really using either to defend the biggest pipe organ in the world.
To their credit, what I did get out of that was they were over-dependent on their magic shield. They were banking everything on that. Not a great strategy,
obviously.
Obviously not.
Or they have a magic
they were banking
magic it out.
Okay, everything was banked on one magic Black Watchman and a magic shield. And if one of those 2 things fails, and God help you if they fail simultaneously.
Yeah, the guy failed in the first one, that fuck thing. So I was like, well, at least we have the big giant shield. Oh, that's down. Well, maybe we should get at least a third something.
You know what? Giant platypus bunny right in the throne room, just his last measure of defense.
So, yeah, I mean... Those are plot holes. Those are just the comic book minor, hey, we want to see the action.
To me, none of them were worse than anything in Man of Steel or Dark Knight.
I agree. I agree. So I mean, that didn't bother me.
To me, it's all about execution. And, people like, we did the same thing in Man of Steel and you did. I'm like, well, one, those are more character-based. And I hate character plot holes more than just scientific plot holes.
Yeah.
And 2, Man of Steel's finale kind of bored me. I'm like, okay, there's a bunch of buildings falling over. Wow, I've never sat through a Transformers movie, never seen that. This one, more low-key, but it was just goofy fun. I'm like, okay, well,
No. More low-key, not more low-key.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So just to clarify what we're talking about there, we needed more low-key, but the look... Fuck it. Anything else you got?
No, I like the fact that I can't wait to see what they do with this. I mean, Loki's on the throne. And one thing I noted, people are just like, oh, well, it should have been a redemption story and this and that. I'm like, well, think about it. Didn't everybody get what they want? Odin, deep down, what did he want? He didn't want to run things. Like, he's just like...
I'm sure he wanted to be alive, too, if he's
Well,
alive.
we have no idea. He may be banished or something, or imprisoned, but, you know, he's just like...
Like,
I'm sick
Odin
of...
sleep again.
He's like, I'm sick of ruling. His wife is dead now, so what did Loki want? He really wanted to rule. What did Thor want? He didn't want to rule at all. He wanted to go back to Earth. Everybody kind of gets what they want in a roundabout way.
It's a happy ending, I guess. So.
Happy ending. One, if you had done a redemption story, your Loki story arc would be closed.
Yeah,
like, that's what bothers, and that's why I keep trying to tell
like
people
him.
into that.
I like
I'm
him on there. I just wish they explained it more.
Now you have a second chance at redemption. It's like, when the Infinity War comes, is like, I have my theories because I read the comics, but when shit goes down, is Loki going to side with Thor? I mean, Thor said Loki fought with honor. Is that going to touch him in any way? Is he going to side with the bad guys? Is he going to go back? Like, there's so many possibilities that it's like, if you just killed him, I'm like, what a waste.
If they really killed him, I would have been like, dude, I'm gonna wait, and you're fucking bringing him back, because I'm gonna, like, really
I would have
angry
assumed
about
they're bringing him back.
Yeah,
You never
they
saw him
did,
again.
But no, I was just like, no, you can't do that. That's like your most popular character, and sure enough, he's around. So, yeah, that's about it. See you next flick.